Ill-fitting clothes and long intros? I'm SD and let's never ever do that again. Let's do this. First off, janky. What is the definition of janky? Well, you might look it up in a dictionary and you might see one definition. Well, my definition of janky is how every single one of my straight stitches looked when I learned how to use a sewing machine. Now the straight stitch, it's important for a lot of different reasons, and one of the most important reasons is the fact that if you're gonna do a flat felt seam, which we'll get to that in another video, is amazing, you wanna make sure you know how to sew in a straight line. And sewing in a straight line, it's not hard, but there's a couple of things that you wanna make sure that you do, and then there's a couple of things you wanna make sure that you do not do. Let's start with what you shouldn't do. The needle! Do not look at it. Don't just watch the needle. Pretend that it doesn't exist. Let it just kind of do its thing, and you need to put your eyes somewhere else. Now, the thing with the needle is the needle will do exactly what you tell it to do, but here's what ends up happening. If you're looking at the needle instead of where you should be looking, which we'll get to in a second, you're not telling that needle where to go. You're just saying, all right, bruh, you just kind of do your thing. You can go that way a little bit, and all right, now you can go that way. That needle ain't gonna question you. And I get it. I used to do this for a very long time, and I hate to admit it, but I did this up to, pretty recently actually. I would just stare at the needle. It's kind of mesmerizing, I get it. It's something kind of cool to look at. It's like, oh wow, it's going up and down so fast. I really wish I was kidding, but I am not. The only time that you should ever look at your needle is if you have pins in your garment and you need to take the pins out in time before the needle actually rolls over them. Because if you do that, your sewing machine is not going to be happy. Your eyeballs ain't gonna be happy because it could break your needle and then bing. So that's the only time, only when you are using pins. And you can circumvent using pins by just you can use a fabric marker. So let's say you want to put a taper on a t-shirt as opposed to sewing in a straight line. What you can do is you can just take a fabric marker and just draw a new line on your shirt and just sew along there, which also makes it way easier than playing connect the dot with the pins, which is what I usually do. So yes, there's a much easier way to do it. So if you're not supposed to look at the needle, SD, what do I do? Where do my eyes go? What do I focus on? I don't get it. There is what is called a presser plate, and it's a big metal plate that you see in the middle of your sewing machine, right underneath the needle, right underneath the presser foot. And take a closer look. Take a real close look. What do you see on there? You see some lines with some markings on there. What you can do with those is you can line up your garments right on one of those lines right there. So as you sew along and you just guide it with your hands real slow, you can make sure that the edge stays lined up on that line on your presser plate, and that way you know that your straight stitch is going to be perfectly straight. That's all I got for you. SD out, deuces!